In Part 1, we looked at the rising conflict between Native Americans, settlers, and ranchers in San Diego, California. In late 1851, Sheriff Augustin Heresthi attempted to collect new and unfair taxes from the Indians in the back country. In November 1851, Antonio Guerra, the chief of the Copinos, incited his people to fight against white settlers. Guerra was in contact with tribes as far away as Baja California and was attempting to organize an uprising to include all Southern California tribes. Guerra made an entreaty to his old enemy Juan Antonio of the Cahuilla tribe. Juan Antonio appeared to support Guerra's plan for expelling the Americans. In November of 1851, Guerra was ready to set his plan in motion. That plan called for the Yumas to destroy San Diego, the Cahuillas and Copinos to attack Los Angeles, and the Tulare natives to strike at Santa Barbara. On November 10, the Indians struck. The San Diego Herald reported that 7 men who were crossing the Colorado River with 1,500 sheep were menaced by 100 Indians, who were chased off by Lieutenant Thomas W. Sweeney, who at the time was in charge of Camp Independence in Yuma. The 7 men left the crossing safely, but were met by Yuma and Cocopa Indians under command of Guerra in the desert between the river and the Algodones sand dunes. 4 of the herders were killed and the sheep driven off. Guerra was blamed because one of the shepherds who escaped identified him as one of the hostiles. Less than 2 weeks later, another group of Indians, led by Antonio Guerra's son, attacked Warner's Hot Spring and killed 4 San Diegans who were taking hot baths. Simultaneously, the Los Coyotes Indian chief Chapuli, with 50 Indians, attacked and burned the buildings at Warner's Ranch and drove off the cattle. Guerra's son and Chapuli then retreated into the Cahuilla village and Coyote Canyon. San Diego was abuzz with the news of the attack, and Sheriff Heresthi requested reinforcements from the state government. Governor John McDougall put out a call for volunteers to suppress the revolt, and received 50 U.S. Army troops that had been stationed in Oregon to augment them. A volunteer company under the command of Army Major E.F. Fitzgerald marched from San Diego to the Hot Springs, where they found Americans dead with their hands tied behind their backs. At the site of the Warner store, they found only ruins and the bodies of Indians killed in the raid. After burying the dead, they burned the village before moving on toward Los Coyotes Canyon. Meanwhile, San Diego Sheriff Augustin Heresthi went to Santa Isabel with a small party and arrested 3 Indians and a renegade white by the name of Bill Marshall. Indian hostility became so intense during this period that Lieutenant Sweeney was forced to abandon the camp at Yuma in December. A speedy retreat over the Emigrant Road brought Sweeney and his men back to San Diego, and they reported that the mountains were covered with Indian signifiers from Carrizo Creek to Santa Isabel. In November or December, moments before the grand attack led by Antonio Guerra was to commence, a pro-American chief leading the Cahuilla tribe opted out of the coalition to sue for peace. The chief of the Cahuillas felt it best for the Indians to cooperate with the whites rather than fight them. He arranged to meet Guerra, captured him, and turned him over to the military authorities. In late December, while Guerra was being held captive, Major Samuel Heinzelman divided the United States Army forces, who were then headquartered at Santa Isabel, into 2 columns, and sent them to the Los Coyotes village to capture the remaining ringleaders of the rebellion. One column, under Major J.B. Magruder, went through Warner's Ranch to Anza Valley and down Coyote Canyon, while Heinzelman followed the trail down San Felipe Valley, crossed up through Borrego Valley, and entered Coyote Canyon from the south. Heinzelman's unit was attacked by Indians led by Chief Copley. After Copley and another chief were killed, the Indians fled. According to an article in the San Diego Union of February 1991, as Copley fell of gunshot wounds, the remaining Indians began a retreat across the little valley formed by the banks of the Coyote Creek and up the sides of the mountains. The Americans were in hot pursuit, when suddenly an Indian woman with a child in her arms stepped from among the retreating warriors. The woman walked fearlessly through the retreating Indians, down the slope, around the boulders, ocotillo, and cactus, and up to the line of startled Americans. Heinzelman ordered his men to ground their weapons. After the battle, troops burned the village and hunted down the other rebellious chiefs. 2 days later, a military trial was held. On Christmas Day, while about 80 Indians looked on, 4 chiefs, well, actually, they were a mayor, a captain, and 2 others, according to the San Diego Tribune article, were executed as they knelt before their graves near what now is known as Middle Willows. Sadly, the punishments were only just beginning. Let's take a look in Part 3. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel for new videos every week or 2, and see the description below for a list of books and online resources featured in this video.